Welcome to Capital Currents, where the flow of business news and market trends keeps you ahead of the tide. I'm your watchdog, and today is Monday, August 25th. In today's episode, I'll tell you what Jerome Powell said in his speech at Jackson Hole on Friday. Then, Meta's cloud deal with Google. Finally, let's dive into Nvidia's latest headache in China. The market rallied on Friday, with the S&P jumping 1.5% and the Nasdaq up almost 2%. This was happening in real time as Jerome Powell was giving his speech in Jackson Hole, and he dropped a strong hint that the Fed plans to cut rates at the next meeting. Jerome Powell said that the baseline outlook and the shifting balance of risk may warrant adjusting our policy stance. That's a pretty clear wink that the Fed is ready to cut rates. And as soon as he said that, the market just shot up. The other notable thing that he mentioned was the importance of the Fed's independence. Jerome Powell has faced a ton of pressure from President Trump, who has threatened to fire him multiple times. And the president is not just stopping at Jerome Powell. The DOJ has now launched an investigation into Fed Governor Lisa Cook, with Trump saying that he'll fire her if she doesn't resign. So there's a lot of drama between the Fed and the White House. But for investors right now, it seems like rate cuts are coming at the September meeting. And that optimism has the market surging this morning. If this sustains, there's a chance the stock market finishes the week at record highs. Let's run through some headlines, starting with Meta. Meta is signing a massive cloud deal with Google worth $10 billion over 6 years, making it the largest cloud deal in Google's history. Now, the timing of this deal is interesting because there were multiple reports this week that Meta was freezing hiring for their AI team. Meta now seems to be turning their attention to get as much AI computing power as they can. Meta has already said they're planning to spend billions of dollars in building their own AI data centers. They also have cloud deals with Microsoft and Amazon, and now this deal with Google. This deal gives Meta access to Google's servers, storage, and even the Nvidia chips inside Google's data centers. So it's pretty clear that Meta is now focusing on getting as much computing power as they can for their AI ambitions. And for Google, this is a huge win for them. Their cloud business has been stuck in third place behind Amazon and Microsoft. So landing a big client like Meta is huge. It's also kind of wild how in big tech these companies are competing against one another, but also paying each other billions of dollars. Like Google and Meta are the biggest digital advertising companies in the world. They compete for people's attention. Meta has Instagram, while Google has YouTube. But now, Meta just became Google's biggest cloud customer, giving them billions of dollars in revenue. And I think when the dust settles, Google might end up being the biggest winner of the AI boom, not just because of their AI models, but because of their AI infrastructure. Let's shift gears and talk about Nvidia, because they're dealing with some more drama out of China. Just weeks after President Trump gave Nvidia the green light to sell their H20 AI chips to China, the Chinese government is now telling Chinese tech companies to stop buying Nvidia's chips because of a potential backdoor in these chips that could be used to spy on Chinese tech companies. Now, CEO Jensen Huang is actually in Taiwan right now, and he's trying to ease the tension. In fact, he's meeting with Chinese officials to convince them that there is no backdoor in these chips. Jensen was talking to some reporters as well, and he sounded kind of exhausted, saying that there is no backdoor and there never has been. He followed that up by saying that he was surprised by China's concern all of a sudden, since they were eager to buy these chips earlier in the year when they were banned by the US government. You know, when the H20 ban was reversed a couple of weeks ago, Chinese tech companies placed orders for 700,000 of these chips. As a result, Nvidia ramped up production to meet the demand. But now that the Chinese government is blocking the sale of these chips, Nvidia is telling their suppliers to stop making them. Nvidia is clearly in a tough spot here. They're getting squeezed from both sides. The US government keeps changing policies and what Nvidia is allowed to sell to China, and now the Chinese government is changing their policies and what is allowed to be sold in their country. And all of this is going to probably have some meaningful impact on Nvidia's business. In fact, China used to make up more than 25% of Nvidia's revenues. Now it's closer to 13% and falling. Jensen clearly doesn't want to lose the Chinese market to local Chinese chip makers like Huawei. In fact, Jensen said he's already talking to the US government about designing a successor to the H20 chip for the Chinese market. But I mean, with all this drama, I don't even know if it's going to hit the market. That's all the business headlines I have for you. Let's take a look at some stocks making moves. Zoom stock is up this morning after the video conference company gave a better than expected outlook for sales growth and raised their forecast for their fiscal year. Total revenues grew by 5% in Q2, while enterprise sales jumped 7% compared to a year ago. Zoom says it has 4,300 customers that pay more than $100,000 each year. Zoom's even finding some success with their AI product. The company said in their reports that their AI companion tool now has millions of monthly active users, and Zoom stock is up about 4%. Now, sticking with the winners here, Ross's shares are up this morning after the discount retailer beat earnings for the quarter. Ross attributed their earnings beat to lower than expected tariff costs. We've seen that theme a couple of times from retailers this week. Now, while Ross did beat on earnings estimates, the retailer did miss slightly on revenue estimates for Q2, but investors were able to look past that. I think they're more excited about the muted tariff impact, and Ross's shares are up more than 3% this morning. That's all for today's show. Keep navigating those waters and see you tomorrow.